With the last title update done and seemingly no new monsters coming up, there are some monsters that I'd like to see make a return in the Master Rank expansion. I'll also throw in a map that I'd like to see return. So, the way I'm going to go about this is I'm going to categorize them via maps, and I'll give each map around 3 to 5 regular monsters plus one to three elder dragons. Not that I think that they're going to add that many elder dragons given the way Wild's gone so far, but hey, a man can dream, right? There are no real criteria for what monster I like back apart from, I want them back. I'll give some reasoning, of course, but yeah, the main reason why I'd like a monster back, regardless of all of them, is that I'd like to fight this monster, or I like the gear. It looks cool. And time since last appearance is also not a factor I will be taking into account, though I might mention it. Let's start with the map. I would like to have something like the Ruined Pinnacle come back. I know we can't get the exact map, but it would be really cool to have a map with a real high peak. I admit that I partly want the map because I want Valve Strikes back, but I think that it's possible to pull off a really high mountain peak map with having the peak part of it be like the Jindahad arena or the Zoshia arena that we have right now. The inclemency could be something like a tornado with the plenty having clear skies, rainbows, and like how they did for Amatsu in Rise. And the fallow could just be like general windiness, which is, I know it's a bit like the Windward plains, but you know what? It's like there aren't that many types of fallow weather that could possibly be there. And we could also make it another snowy map, even though we do already have one. But this one will have far larger areas, so they can add some of the larger monsters that I will get to. I'm assuming you already know what I'm talking about, though. Let's start with something I think a lot of people want: Monoblos. I would have liked to do the Proof of Hero quest, but since they've already done that now, I think chances of us getting him are a bit low, given that if we do get a Monoblos, having Proof of Hero is, I'm going to say, pretty essential. I don't know. I've also hunted plenty of Diablos and don't particularly like the fight. So I'd hope that they make Monoblos more distinct and more like better, at least in my opinion. I'd like to see if maybe they could make him fly more or dig more. No, we would want that. That's just more immunity bases. Anyway, so different from Diablos is what I'd like. And I think he'd also fit pretty well ecologically in the Windward Plains. Diablos are known to eat more cacti, while Monoblos have a more variety of plants that they eat, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. So he'd fit in the Windward Plains just fine. And he also fits in with another monster that I will bring up later. Next, I propose that we get Basil back. I know he's been in the last two, but that doesn't matter. Really love the fight. And he would work really well in the plains or the forest. Sure, he can't really show up in the other two maps, given they're small and have a like in a cavern. But it'd be really funny to see how Basil would crash into Uthduna. Just two like round ovals just throwing themselves at each other. That would be really funny. And they could reintroduce the invader mechanic by hiding like certain monsters on each map until you encounter the monster. Like, for example, you're fighting Ray down, then boom, fucking Basil in your face. I really say more? Okay, now on to monsters that are not flying wyverns. With our good friend, the Daimyo Hermitar. Let's say I get what I want and we get Monoblos. Then we can have a Hermitar Monoblos Turf War, and that would be awesome. For those of you who don't know, the Hermitar shell is a Monoblos skull, which means it also fits well pretty ecologically. I mean, it fits pretty well ecologically. There are some places with water that the Hermitar can chill in, so it is not like too ecologically sound, but I mean, it for the most part works. And it would be really cool to see some of the Stone Fist moves for the tempered version of Hermitar. Now, on to one that we haven't seen in a bit, and is quite possibly unpopular. Cotton from Rage Gaming has sold me on this one. It's Durambros, or rather, since I'm putting it in the Windward plain section, Rust Durambros. I think the forest might be a bit too small for a monster of this size. I really would like to fight a spinny monster, and I think we could do with a more high tier brute wyvern, since the only high tier one we have right now is Fulgurangi. And I don't know if Durambros is considered low, high, or mid tier, but it would be nice to give him an updated fight and make him a high tier monster. Next, I think, is something that is probably a long shot, but I think we should get Atalkar back. I know a lot of people want one of the Morons to be the siege fight, but I think Atalkar could also take that place. It might be a bit too early after GU to see it back, but I think there's a lot of fun stuff we could do with the mechanics in Wilds. Also, we haven't really had a showing for Neopterons in Wilds just as yet, and Atalkar is one of the better ones, I'm going to say, and would make a really good showing for them. I just assume that they're going to add at least one of each type of monster, or at least the majority of types of monsters, given that this game has had so much diversity. But if they do bring back a Neopteron, I want it to be Atalkar. And also, the fight is really cool, the mech and stuff. Don't tell me you don't want to fight that in Wild's combat system. Let's talk Elders. The popular choice would probably be one of the Morons, but like I said before, I think Atalkar would be my choice for a siege fight. So I'm gonna have a hot take and say, let's bring Lunastra back. Not Teostra, but Lunastra. I know she's quite widely hated given the old gen fight was basically blue Teostra and the new gen fight was just cooking people because ground is always on fire. But I think if they sort of change the fight a little bit, make it a bit more toned down and better anyway, I think Lunastra would be a fantastic choice. Also, I don't think she's ever been in a game without Teostra, and this could be a good chance to do that. Although, if you're going to bring her back, why not just bring Teostra back? Also, I do prefer blue to red, and I really like the blast element, which hasn't been doing too well in Wilds, so maybe this could save it. Moving on, before I get stoned for my other choice, my next Elder that I would want back for the Windward Plains is Crimson Glow Valstrax. I did mention regular Valstrax, But if that map doesn't get added, then at least we have Crimson Glow. Also, the invader mechanic would work so well for him, you know? And it's just a really good fight. If they include some of the risen moves into the, like, maybe the tempered version or the arch tempered version, that would be really cool. And the armor is just so good. I want to see it with Wiles graphics. The weapons, amazing. I mean, the weapons could be cooler, but the armor is just so damn good. And yeah, maybe they could have the Epoch armor, which is like the risen version, to be the arch tempered version of the armor. Just just bring him back, man. Everyone loves him. No reason not to. And again, Invader. Just imagine yeeting out of the sky, like crashing into you as you're hunting, like fucking arc weld or something. You know? So I don't know if this is a cold take or a hot take, but give me more Sonoga, man. It's a cool monster with a solid fight with awesome armor and really cool weapons. I would have included Stygian Sonoga since I really do like them as well, but since they're adding deviant moves to the base monster, I think that this would be an amazing time to see how Thunderlord would work in the new gen games. And Thunderlord is a great fight, which I think a lot of people haven't experienced yet. Or, like, they really don't want to go play the old games with the, like, bit slower and more difficult to control characters. So this would be a great way to introduce the deviants, which they kind of sort of already been doing. So this is something that will pop up very frequently in this list. So many deviants, and yeah, it's maybe they could give some Thunderlord moves to this Stygian Sonoga. That would also be a really cool fight to have. Let's stick with the lightning theme with the next one, which is Astalos. His fight is really solid. His gear looks damn cool, and I get he's the same archetype as Raidao, but I think the fight is distinct enough to kind of let that slide. Also, wouldn't it be really cool to see an Astalos Raidao turf war? Where, like, Astalos shoots lightning at Raidao, Raidao just redirects the lightning back at Astalos, which then gets powered up because of the lightning. That would be pretty cool, I think. Sticking with popular monsters, I want to see Nagakuga again. This is a monster I like the look of, I like the armor of. Weapons are a bit okay, but the main reason I want to see Narga back is, even though that we've had him in the past few games, is Silverwind Nagakuga, man. Give us some of the Silverwind moves to Nagakuga. That would be really good. Again, there's going to be like a lot of deviant mentions. Just like the entire deviant roster, or at least most of it, is going to be in this video. But more Nagakuga. I do love the monster. Not the fight, but the monster and the armor. Although Silverwind might change my opinion on that fight. My next pick for the forest is Malfestio. Not much surprise here. It's another one of the monsters with the deviant. And would like to see that he's a much harder bird wyvern fight, who are all generally mostly starter monsters. He would like either be a mid or high tier bird wyvern, not sure which, and the way that he can fuck with your controls, it's either going to be loved or hated. I know that I quite liked it, but who knows, man. Also, I think he'd be a great choice since, I think he fits the vibe of the game in general. And with the variety of the types of monsters, Malfestia would fit right in. Also, his deviant, pretty cool. I believe he can go invisible. Could be wrong there. But this this would be an amazing fight to have. Give us more Malfestio, please. Thank you. Now, for the elders. The one I really want back is Namiel. I really love the fight, the look, and the armor of the monster. The weapons could get an upgrade, but that's not really important with the weapon layered weapon system. I think Namiel would work really well in the forest. It could ambush you from the water. There are plenty of waters for us to get electrocuted generally. The only thing that might not work as well is the visibility of the water slime in the water specifically. This could be difficult, but you could treat it as an additional layer of difficulty, or just change the color of the water slime, or give it like certain effect so it's more visible against the water. And I'd love to see turf wars it could get into. I just want to like it could like fuck with Mizu, Lagi, and Utzduna. Utzduna again, another lightning water monster, but bit weaker, I guess. And any small brush ups that they could do with the fight, that would be welcome as well. Another one that I'd like to see is Valhazak, or more likely Blackveil Valhazak, given that this is the flooded forest. This is probably a bit of a hot take, but I quite like the fight, and the armor looks cool as well. I know a lot of people have the problem. People have the problem with the fight. I think it's the effluvium that's the main problem, halving your health and all. But I think that you just need to slot in the effluvium resistance and like rock paper scissors, you're all good. And it doesn't negate the damage, just prevents your health from being halved. So if they brush up the fight, then it would still be a really solid fight. Another thing that would pose a bit of a problem is the health regen thing. It's already on the Zoshi armor, so they'll either have to come up with something different for that, or I don't know, make it work in a way where each one is a bit distinct from the other, and possibly could stack. My last pick would be Chameleos, even though Poison is my least favorite of the ailments, apart from Paralysis. I really like Chameleos, especially with the Rise moveset that allows you to make use of the third dimension essentially. They would have to make a few changes with the moves, given that not all weapons has the upward movements in wilds. But I think since they've done a great job with the rest of the monsters, at least according to me, with updating the older monsters to fit in with the wild system, I think they could do a really good job with Chameleos as well. And the weapons are like they have a really cool concept, though not my favorite looking ones. And I'm sure there's like somebody out there who likes the armor. Not my cup of tea, but could be. Let's start with a pretty basic choice. It's our friend, the greatsword user, Glavenus. I think he didn't get the best showing in World, but with the general quality of the Wilds monsters, I think Glavenus would be an amazing choice. And if they add some of the Hellblade moves for the tempered version of his fight, that would do wonders. Also, I think that offsetting a Glavenus with a greatsword, I mean generally with any weapon, but with a greatsword would be amazing, given that, it's still supposed to be like a greatsword. And with that, I want the Glavenus greatsword, if we do get him back, to just be a Glavenus tail with a handle stuck to it. That would be just so amazing. And, overall, Glavenus, pretty awesome monster, pretty flashy. The fights in Wilds are also flashy. This would just make the whole experience a whole lot more cinematic. My next pick would be Shogun Centaur. And it's only Shogun Centaur because we can't really have Rust Razor back because that's a GU thing. Anyway, this is mostly to bring back some of the Rust Razor moves, but also to see a Rust Razor fighting Glavenus Turf War. Tell me you don't want to see that. We missed out on these things since Turf Wars were only introduced in World and the Rust Razor, Hellblade were in GU. So, you know, something that we really missed out on. These monsters would have such great interactions with, it's essentially two sword fighters. And the fight wouldn't be anything to sneeze at either, given the quality of Wild's monsters so far. I don't particularly like Bleed, but apart from that, I do really like the Shogun Senator fight. It's a great fight for a weird looking crab. And again, a Senator with a Glavenus shell versus an actual Glavenus would really be something to see. Now for a bit of an older monster, Agnactor. He seems like he would be a really fun fight, and from what I hear, he's literally a hard fight, and I mean literally. And I think the elite blade masters have got quite comfy not bouncing while attacking, and Agnactar is my solution. I also just want to fight him, and sure, he's like another Leviathan in a game with just so many Leviathans, but we don't have a lava Leviathan yet, so it's either this guy or Magma Almudron, and I really think that this guy would be the better choice to bring back. Another older one I'd like back is a Cantor. I know he's a bit big, but he could have like a separate area like Jin does. And I know that the older version of a Cantor is really similar to Tigrex, with his moves basically being charges and sound blasts. So if they do bring him back, I really hope that they change him, making him more distinct rather than basically a large ass tigress with hella spikes. And he also eats Gravios, which means like he's going to be pretty well fed since there's so many fucking Gravios in the basin. My last one for the non-elders is Brachy. Though I didn't really like him at first, I think Raging Brachy really grew on me, especially since the weapons look so damn good. And it also helps that I really like Blast in general. I also really like the ecology of Brachy, with the whole symbiotic relationships that he and Zenoga have are pretty cool, power of friendship and all that. I don't really think they'd bring Raging Brachy back because he had one hell of a showing in Iceborne, and no matter what they do with him, even if the fight is actually better, people are just going to be like, oh yeah, Wilds did it worse. So, I think bring back regular Brachy and or give us a cool subspecies, rather than a variant, a whole subspecies. That would be damn good. As for the elders, I don't really have anything on my wish list that would fit in here. So, I mean, Theastra's there, but he's not really something that I want back. I mean, we did put Lunastra in the plains, and we did say, it'd be nice if she got a solo showing, but people really like Theastra, so, I mean, why the fuck not? And also, I like Blast, so I'm not really complaining. Let's start with the more recent showing with Lunagaron. He has an awesome fight, he looks cool, and his gear looks dope as hell. And most importantly, he isn't too big to fit into the cliff's narrow hallways and such. Need I say more? I do? Okay, then he could also imagine this. He could follow the paths that were sacred exclusive. Like he could chase you as you go on your sacred. That would be pretty damn cool, right? And did I mention that he has a great fight and awesome gear? The other one of the recent ones would be Gossarar. This one is a bit bigger, but I think it should still fit into the small congested areas of the cliff. This is another one of my favorites in Rise, and one that I think didn't get really enough of a showing to shine. But I think the Wilds team could really do wonders with it, since they have, again, in my opinion, have done really well with the rest of the monsters. And if they made him a guardian, they could give him Wilk weapons, and maybe they could those weapons could change not just into blades or like a hammer, but maybe they could turn into a gun like the anti-wyvern weapons. Again, a cool monster and one that I think could work really well. Next one is a bit of an old one we haven't seen in a bit, and that would be Baleful Giganox. Why Baleful and not normal Giganox? I think that the normal Giganox covers a niche that already exists in the cliffs, which is poison and small children, which is basically what Nursilla does. But again, that shouldn't be much of an issue if they make the fight distinct enough, which shouldn't be that hard given Giganox is a really weird wyvern that uses the ceilings and walls a heck of a lot more, if I remember correctly. And again, it would also be really nice to hunt a different element, a monster with a different element in the Ice Shard Cliffs. Right now, it's pretty much just poison and ice. This would introduce lightning or electricity, what do you want to call it. Now, this next one might be a bit of a hot take, but I really like Legiana, and I think he would mostly work in the cliffs. It fits the ecology of needing like wind currents to glide, since it doesn't really fly normally, and it could move through the areas while going outside the tunnels rather than through them like the Hiribami do. And it's a pretty cool looking monster. The gear could be better, but I don't really think they're going to change that unless I'm wrong. Which, cross my fingers, hopefully I am, if they do include him. Let's move on to the Elders. I think that Orochi Kirin should make a return. One, because apart from Velkhana, there really isn't like any other Ice Elder Dragon, I don't think. And they would fit nicely in the cliffs size-wise. It's also been a while since we've seen Orochi Kirin, and it's a really cool concept for Kirin that evolved to counter the Rajang, ice being Rajang's weakness and all. I mean, don't quote me on this, since I'm not guaranteed, but that is my headcanon. Anyway, a cool monster would be cool to see it. Seems like a really nice fight, and the armor isn't too bad either. My other choice would obviously be Velkhana. I know they might not necessarily fit into the cliffs, but they did stuff Gore Magala in there, so why not Velkhana? Also, the Velkhana I feel would be a great addition. You could offset the tail stabs, power guard the ice breath, and they have one more chance to fix the wall bullshit that somehow made it through like Rise as well. Also, the armor and weapons look sick as fuck, and the fight is really good, apart from of course the ice breath through walls things. So really no reason not to bring it back, even though it's been in the past two games. Let's start with one that I brought up before, and that's Glavenus. He has quite a few moves that could make use of the will crystal mechanic, like his spinning slash or his double cut, where he, slices twice. One could, create the crystals while the next would detonate them. And I think Guardian Glavenus would look cool as hell. He's also got the power behind him to make sense why he was created into a Guardian. My next choice would be Magnum Alo. I know he's one of the least liked flagships, but I really do like his fight. And a lot of his moves could work really well with the Wilk mechanic. With, like, the creation detonation changes he could do, using the Wilk to extend the range on the Hellflyer blasts. He could also use the Wilk to extend the blades, and we could use that against him by breaking it. And as with Glavenus, he does kind of have the power to, make sense as to why he was turned into a Guardian. My next choice, again, is Najarala. I think Najarala would make a fine Guardian. It can use its scales and Wilk in similar manners, kind of using them as an extension of each other. And if you don't know, it uses sound waves to kind of explode the scales that it scatters around, and it could do the same with Wilk. It's been a long time since we've had this one. It would be really cool to have it back. And you could add the title one as well, but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know much about that fight, I'll be honest. But I think Najarala would make a really cool addition, and given that they seem to be adding almost every type of monster species into this, Snake Wyverns should make a comeback, somehow at least. Now, as for the Elders, I think I want Nergigante to come back. I don't care how they do it, just bring Nergigante back. And not ruin a Nergigante, just regular, normal Nergigante. He has, in my opinion, a much better fight. And I've heard some theories going around where, Wilk is essentially man-made bioenergy, and that sounds like a really, convincing and really interesting theory, which would give Nergigante a reason to show up. Also, we don't know where Nergigante has come from, because they did say that Nergigante, it flew over the ocean to reach the new world, right? And also, all the elder dragons that are supposedly in the new world are all old, dying elder dragons. So it'd be really cool to see how Nergi technically puts up a fight against normal, healthy elder dragons that are in the prime of their life. Also, I just really want to fight him, The other would be Primordial Malzeno. Imagine, or maybe even Guardian Primordial Malzeno. I think it would be really cool since I like Malzeno and it was a Guardian of a Kingdom, so it would be a perfect choice to be made into a Guardian. I'm not sure how they would do the form changes. Maybe it absorbs Wilk like Arkwell does. It gets more powerful. Maybe the Curios could be replaced with Wilk in the attacks. This is probably a fight that would have to change the most to be fit into any other game. But I think they could manage it. I'm sure there's something they could do about it. This would also give us an opportunity to see Primordial Malzeno versus an Nergigante in a turf war. And that would be really cool. And I also think that the Offset people and the Power Clash people would have a really good time with this one. Maybe not the Power Clash people. The entire reason I brought this map up was because I want Valstrax back. There's not much to say about it. I really like the fight, I really like the monster, I really like the weapons. All-round banger. And, you could also have, since I proposed Crimson Glow for the desert region, the Windward Plains, we could kind of, and since it's a variant, we could have a story arc where we follow a regular Valstrax that kind of gets turned into a Crimson Glow Valstrax. That and we kind of follow the progress. I think that would be a really cool way to introduce Crimson Glow as a monster. It'd be really cool. Think about it. This would also be a great place to add some of the base game subspecies or variants. Let's just have two for this one. Let's start with Lalabarina. I think the design and I really like the fight of the monster But I do agree that Lalabarina had a little too less health and didn't deal as much damage as some people might have liked. But if they make her a blast monster with the Florats being mini bombs, kind of like a mix of Basil and Ragnakaraki, I think that would be a really cool monster combination of ballet and explosions. It's a nice contrast. The next would be Shu. I think it has the most potential without changing the essence of the fight. We could get an ice version with the weapons being made of ice, but that's pretty much Gosrag type of thing. You could have it make it out of mud, a bit like Almudron, and you could put that into the forest and the plains as well. You could have it infused with dragon energy, which might be a bit overdone. Lightning could be cool with it using its, like the secretions as a conductor and using environmental electricity, which would play into the thunder trade-off hypothesis, I believe it's called. You could also make it like Glavenus and give it the fire element where it sharpens the blades and, makes it red hot. You could also just slap on like sleep or poison. Water, technically it's already a water monster. I don't see it though, but yeah. Anyway, really versatile monster. They really should make a variant or a subspecies for this, definitely. Now, let's say that since, this is a high mountain, there is a bit of snow, and we say the areas are a bit more open akin to the Windward plains, but with snow. This would give us a great place to add in Gammoth, who is a bit of a large girl, and as always, it would be great to see some of the deviant moves added into regular Gammoth. And since people have been asking for it for a while, I say they can't really go wrong with this one, especially if they gave her that new 6th gen polish. Speaking of big fellas, next up is Eucanlos, the IC counterpart to a Cantor. I don't have much to say on this one apart from I feel like if we bring back a Cantor, we should get Eucanlos, and I really do think the fight is a pretty good one. I haven't quite gotten to fighting them yet in what's it called, GU, but I would really like to see this fight with maybe a new gen update. And I think the gods of Black and White would make amazing large monsters that aren't siege fights. I think Dalamadur would be an awesome monster to get back. From what I understand, the OG fight wasn't that much fun. A bit like hitting a wall is something that I heard thrown around quite a bit. So I think this would be a great opportunity to remake the monster, update it, and it's a big ass snake with tiny legs, and that's, just a bit funny. But it still looks really cool. Now, this could be a siege fight, but I think it would work just as well as a cinematic hunt, a bit like Jin or Zoshia. Another one I would like back is Nakarkos. It's the armor that I really want back. The fight itself would be great, I assume, and now that they have cephalopods as a category, and I think they've done some really good work with both Nundra and Shugu, this would be an amazing fight for the fight to return with some, 6th gen touch-ups. The only thing that has me thinking on why it should not return is where we put it. Wyvern's End is such a unique place, and so the only place that I think they'll be able to put it is a whole separate arena, like they did with Kulv and Fatalis in World. But this is up there with one of the monsters that I like to fight again. Another one I think should come back is Alatreon. Now I know this is what might be a controversial take, but I think this fight would be so much better with the dual weapon system that we have in Wilds. It also give us a lot more to play with. I think honestly, Alatreon would have just worked much better in Wilds than it would have in world. Its fight is pretty good. I do enjoy it. It's a bit fast for me, and that's because I suck. But like it has good fight in world, but a little touch up to the combat, and you make really good fight, I think. Now, another one that I want back. This one is different because it's from Frontiers, and that is Forokururu. We we could use a high level bird wyvern, and this would be amazing to have. Not to mention the soundtrack is absolutely fire. The design is also really good. We just probably need to nerf it a little bit for, wild spacing as compared to frontier pacing. I know that's something that a lot of the frontier players probably might not like, but I I think that most frontier monsters are a bit overtuned for mainline games, so giving it a bit of a 6th gen downgrade or upgrade, whichever way you want to look at it, and I think the fight would be amazing. My last pick would be Old Fatalis or White Fatalis. I think that this is a really cool concept of the monster, and it uses, I believe, the angel motifs for its weapons and armor, unlike regular Fatalis, which uses a devil motif. And it would be really cool to have this fight. I think, even story wise, with the whole ancient civilization stuff we have going on. And if I'm not wrong, White Fatalis comes out of the portal. So there's there's a lot of good stuff we can get out of a revamped Old Fatalis fight. Right. So those are the Master Act monsters that I'd like to see. This is, of course, way more than I think they're gonna add. But one can hope, like I said. Anyway, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, the usual stuff, and see you next time.